Welcome to the Mystical Journey podcast. I am your host, Hervé Geneza. This is where we investigate together whether it's possible to be completely free. And I really wonder if we can trigger a permanent, irreversible change. I am referring to a revolution of the mind beyond all concepts and ideas. And I wonder if we can do this together with 100% sincerity, with no stones left unturned. Today's topic is fear. The mind says, the thinking mind says, I'm terrified of the dark. I have been terrified of the dark when I was young. I was terrified of ghosts. I was scared of flying. I was scared of falling in love, scared of falling out of love, scared of being rejected, scared of being accepted or not accepted, scared of not succeeding at life, fear of being abandoned, fear of getting old and become useless, fear of living a life of misery. Above all, I am scared of dying. The idea of imagining my body with no life in it, rotting 6 feet under. The end of my existence, the end of all cool memories I have saved and cling on. The end of the known and the fear of the unknown. So today I would like us to investigate whether fear is even real, right? The mechanism behind fear. Can we also explore the idea or go in depth about the destructiveness of fear? And in the end, we need to understand and wonder if there is an end to all fears. Absolutely, not a little bit, not partially, not somehow, but absolutely the end of all fears. When it comes to fear, sometimes I wonder if we even realize that our core society we live in and what we have built is at the core built around fear. And safety is not a good idea. So we build a safe environment, right? So we know that human beings can be violent. So we build a world of peace, right? Even though in the end we still fight each other and kill each other because, we're internally in conflict. We know we're going to die. That's a fact. That's a guarantee. So what we do, we create a world in which no one talks about death. Unless you're close to 60 years old and you have accepted your fate, then can you start accepting the idea of the end of your existence? But in the meantime, the idea is not to talk about death, which is the end of all fears and the end of all ideas, because there is even a superstitious part of it that says, well, if you talk about death, you might actually invite death. Death is fearful. Death is dark. Right. So how can we prove that everything that we have built, that we are, the idea of ourselves, this collective thinking mind lives in fear? Well, all we have to do is just look at what we built, right? Someone who has no fear, if there is such a thing, he has nothing to worry about because there is no end. Therefore, this idea of building a society that thrives, that evolves, and that is better than yesterday, to secure a better future, to secure a more pleasant future, to secure a more technological advanced future, to secure a world in which everybody has access to whatever we want, is an idea trying to secure and distract ourselves from the end of all. We're clinging on this society as if this society or this civilization, just like others, won't end. Just like any civilization, there is a beginning and there is an end. We don't want that end, so we build things, right? We build ideas, we create ideas, we trying to cure diseases that are actually we have created, by the way. The very same thing that we have created and that's in us is the very same thing we're trying to fight. And we come up with ideas and institutions and customs and religions and techniques and spiritual systems because we know the end is always near. There is the end, the individual end, that is a personal fear. There is also the collective end, that there is a chance that human beings may not be there in the next 1,000 years. This is also an idea. So this fear can be proven and observed by just looking at what we build, what we create, and our relationship to endings, right? No one wants any ending, right? So you get a job and the idea of your boss and company give you security that hopefully your boss will still be good and understanding in the next 10 years, so you can have this safety of bringing an income that can gives you comfort for you and your children and your wife. So the pursuit, the fact that fear is built is in everything we build. This is why we pursue safety, the pursuit of safety, the pursuit of comfort, right? The pursuit of something that can never change, hopefully a long lasting at least. But the funny thing about fear is a creation of the thinking mind. So because fear is not real, it's not more real than this thinking mind. Just like pleasure, just like the thing we talk about the most that aren't everlasting. Just like happiness is a creation, or at least the pursuit of happiness is a creation of the thinking mind. Okay, how could the thinking mind ever have an understanding of something that is eternal while this thinking mind has a beginning and an end? So, just like the thinking mind, fear is not real. It doesn't have existence of itself. It doesn't have life of itself, right? It's a possibility that something might happen. Most of the time, even the regular fears, accidents here and there, they actually never even end up happening 99% of the time, because it's a creation of a possibility that might happen. But in the end, even the greatest fears of all the fears, which is the fear of death, is still nothing but a creation of the mind. Meaning its existence, its roots comes from a place that is by default doomed to end. So the very creation of fear that is passed on to us, the human beings that are experiencing this fear, that we take on as something that's real, is only the fear of the ending of the thinking mind. So, but we have accepted this idea that somewhere, somehow, there is an end to all of this. Right? It's because to have an end, there has to be a beginning. So the thinking mind says, where you have a beginning, you have something, you started on this date, right? You were born, you came out of your mother's womb, so you have a beginning. That's who you are. All right. So I'm going to build an idea of you, right? You're male or female, born in this culture, so you have been given a set of steps on a way to function. There's a behavior that has to be followed. This behavior makes you look good or bad in society. Then there is a structure, an institution, a path that has been created for you. And the more you go through that, you create a more tangible idea of who you are, right? And then you get a hold on stuff such as happiness, comfort, peace, and all the good stuff, all those values, right? And all of them have been created for you. You just have to pick and choose, just like in a restaurant. So you just open the restaurant of all patterns and possibilities, and then you choose. Today you want to have a burger, tomorrow you can have pasta. In the end, all these creations all have an end, right? So the biggest fear of all isn't that death is a problem, because death is not a problem, because death is not real, or it doesn't have realness of itself. It's just the end of the thinking mind, right? So there is a nowhere that is quiet, whole, unknown, unspeakable, undescribable, the essence of all things. And then this nowhere is even unknown to itself. From there, it has created things such as matter, pattern, shapes and forms, and worlds and universes, and levels and dimensions and realms to experience itself. Because the knower behind all is unknown to itself. It's not subject of its own knowledge, right? So the knower starts and begins with time identifying itself with the things it has created. The matter, the tangible. And the thinking mind is born out of there. Then separation is born. The knower leaves and rejects its own essence and clings on the thinking mind, right? Because the thinking mind has so much pulling force, right? So much distraction, and it's so cunning because it's trying to stay alive. From there, everything that the thinking mind touches is by default corrupted because it's born out of separation. Inner conflict becomes the norm, and religions, institutions, and cultures, and spiritual systems, ideologies are born from there, only to distract the knower of the end of the thinking mind. Because at that point, the knower doesn't even think. It's so in sync with the thinking mind. Doesn't think there is a way to end all this separation. because there is no awareness of what's happening. Then from there, fear is created to prevent you to investigate. This is why we investigate. We don't come to conclusions, even though really we already know what's happening here deep down. But let's investigate instead of jumping to conclusions, so we can become not only the gurus, the teachers and the teaching, and become the observer in what's being observed. So we can become basically the knower and the known in sync, right? No separation. So when fear is created and is at the core of all pursuits, the pursuits of happiness, the pursuits of pleasure, the pursuits of safety, the pursuit of peace, fear is created from the fight, or fear pushes the creation of a fight against evil, the fight against terrorism, the fight against darkness, the fight against poverty, the fight against diseases, the fight against corruption. Fear is the driving force for a corrupted mind. A corrupted mind is a mind that is in separation, that can never be free unless it can stop the identification, or when the knower becomes aware that it has been identified with the thinking mind. And this is where observation, to observe one's behavior, to observe one's chatter, mind chatter, all these thoughts, left and right, what you think you're going to do tomorrow, what you think about yesterday, your future, your past, observing it reduces the chatter, the power of this thinking mind, because it loses his pulling force. And if it can't pull you, or it can do that less, then you have awareness to actually realize that there is a knower behind it, which is the source of all, which is the essence of all, and you can become source again. The trick is not to fight the thinking mind, because to fight the thinking mind is also an idea of the thinking mind. It's like being the head of a police regiment, or the head of an army looking for criminal, only to realize that the head of this military, the head of this institution, is actually the same as the criminal officer is looking for. Because the fight, the idea of fighting the thinking mind actually keeps you trapped. This is why people always talk about to surrender. Surrendering is actually much more powerful than fighting. And observation is probably one of the most important things that one can do when it comes to consciousness. Then by observing, you create a space between the thinking mind and pure consciousness, so you give yourself space to realize what's going on. And eventually, by looking and observing how cunning the thinking mind can be, eventually you become accustomed to the realness of you. And from there, things like compassion and kindness and love can actually be born. So it's not going into the thinking mind and creating some sort of technique and idea or innovative idea to actually eject from the thinking mind, because anything that's born in time has to die. But source isn't born in time, is actually not even born. It can be described, but you are it, only you're pretending that you're not. So then this goes against what the idea we have about spirituality, because enhancing the thinking mind, which also has a lot of creativity and power, doesn't get you anywhere if your concern is to become awakened, to become enlightened. As attractive as the thinking mind can look, all these ideas that are born out of it, they're only still a distraction, right? The thinking mind lives in fear. He hopes that one day it doesn't get discovered. And the idea of all spiritual pursuits, from all kinds of systems, from anything you can think of about consciousness, is to become whole again, which is enlightenment. Now, the destructiveness of fear, it's so embedded in our daily life that sometimes we don't even realize it. This affects our friendship, romantic relationships, business relationships, relationship between a mother and the son, relationship between a mother and a daughter, relationship between a daughter and a father, relationship about anything, relationship with nature, is because we are corrupted and in conflict that we can go and decimate all the forests and pollute all the waters, right? And then come up with ideas and programs to fix it, right? Because we wouldn't be able to do that in the first place, because the thinking mind that lives in separation thinks is different, right, from nature. It's always been one organism all the time, because you are the world entirely, and the world is you entirely. This information is important because it can affect your consciousness, and you can affect the consciousness of the entire universe. And unlike most ways that are being heard right now, there is no special reading technique in which you need to partake in. Just sitting here and listening without having any sensory reaction. I like this, I don't like this. Just investigating, but investigating with no agenda. You're not trying to find something because you don't want the thinking mind to get in the way. But what you want is to have a clear mind. Behind all the fluffs, right? All the chatter. What do we have? Right? Well, fear gets in the way, right? Fear is the wall, right? Well, if you do this, if you inquire, the thinking mind will bring fear, right? The fear of looking in the dark, the fear of you seeing all the stupidity and all the dark side of yourself. It will bring that so that you stay away. But eventually, by observing, even as a way of meditating, which we can actually talk about another time in terms of meditation, is better than to actually trying to make yourself quiet, right? You can't make yourself quiet, because this is the idea born of the thinking mind. But what you can do is surrender and observe and look at what the activity of the thinking mind, but without putting yourself into it, without saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe the thinking mind is doing this," because then you being pulled in. You're trying to stay away and just observe as the only source of all. Watch the pattern happen. Watch yourself. Watch this character that's going through life and on a daily basis that you've taken for the whole. And then this can actually empower, give the actual character the real power that he needs to get what he wants. Because in the end, when you pass, when you die, this character doesn't matter anymore. You realize it never mattered. You only realize on one thing, that there is no right or wrong. There is no dark and light. All there is wholeness. From there, a world of pattern is born. From wholeness, by wholeness. The destructive of fear in your daily life has affected the way you see yourself. Is also the creation and the source of all your traumas, all your problems, right? You want a relationship with a friend, but you fear that this friend might disappoint you. Well, that's based on fear. You want a relationship with a romantic relationship with a partner, but you fear that it might end or this person might disappoint you. Then, well, that's already born of fear. It's already doomed, no matter what. Even if you manage to stay with this person for 30, 40 years, you still live in fear. Because you think this thinking mind has convinced you that there is an idea and a personality, a thing you need to protect. Right? So if I'm disappointed by this person, right? If I'm ever disappointed by this person, I'll protect myself. Right? Or in order not to be disappointed by this person, I'll automatically protect myself from a potential danger or deception. So in the end, it's still fear. But pain, deception, misery, regret are only pain, misery, and fear and sadness of the thinking mind, not of you, not of the source. These ideas of sadness and deception, there's nothing to be disappointed by, because you are whole. How could you be disappointed if you are all? If you are a source of all things? Only if you're identified with one particular part of the wholeness, right? So when you say you're hurt, you have been disappointed, you're sad, you live a life of misery, you're unhappy, the thinking mind is unhappy, in misery, disappointed, because that's the pulling force that it has. Because source is completely untouched, unpolluted. So pain, suffering, misery, which are also all connected to the pursuit of pleasure, happiness, and a better life, they both are intertwined, but with the core, at the core, all there is fear. All there is fear. Whether you pursue happiness because you don't want to be disappointed in life, whether you have been disappointed in life, now you stopped pursuing happiness, it doesn't matter. This is all born out of the thinking mind. That is the destructiveness of fear in your daily life. So there is a sense of urgency when we speak about change, a permanent change, not just a change of a little bit, trying to cure maybe some of your trauma and some of your what you call problems, and maybe some sadness, by replacing it with happy moments. It won't change. It won't cut it. What will cut it is simply going to the root of all. There is fear. There is separation. There is inner conflict. And from there, you can have peace that's everlasting, that surpasses all understanding. What people call enlightenment, awakening, the end of the thinking mind. There are so much use cases when it comes to fear that you can observe in your daily life. That almost every pursuit of that you have is born out of fear. Pretty much all pursuits that you have are born out of fear. Right? Now, the question is, because we are concerned with things that are out of time, things that are eternal, that don't have a beginning nor end. This is what we're concerned by. The question is there an end to the mechanism of fear? And I'm talking about like end of all, not just once, just a little bit. Once and for all, is as long as we are alive, is there an end to fear? All kinds of fears, including, of course, the fear of death. Is there an end to it? There's no need to answer this question. Looking for it is simply the investigation is the answer to this question. So there's no need to answer this question. But perhaps the end of all fear is the science behind detachment. Right? Is to understand, for lack of a better word, and by really looking, investigating whether this thing you call personality, with the name and the history, is perhaps nothing but collective ideas about you, but they're actually not the real thing. And the end of fear is simply the detachment from all things, the pursuit of happiness, the fight against the evil, what's good and what's bad, transcending life. Right? But it takes, first of all, you have to observe. You have to observe yourself in it. You have to observe yourself in the world of pattern and see what you do. And then from there, once you observe yourself, you're playing this character, you're interacting with people, you observe yourself. You have an observer observing this character. And then from there, you can increase the awareness behind this world of pattern, behind this character. Okay? And it takes a little bit of discontent. You have to be discontent a little bit with the world that we live in, right? With the what you're feeling about it right now. And then the more awareness you can increase by observing this character without being caught up in it, can you start ejecting from the matrix, from the thinking mind. And that's the beginning of the end of fear while you're still alive. That's it. It's that simple as that. The rest is for you to figure it out, because the more information you get, the more the thinking mind might actually be involved and get in the way. That's all there is. That's the science behind awakening, the science behind enlightenment, that most people think it has to take 20 years and 40 years in order to achieve, because they think it's an achievement. But it's not an achievement. It's not something you pursue for years. You do it while you listen to things like this. You do it while you observe yourself with the character doing what it does. So it can be an instant, and irreversible, and permanent change. This is why this channel exists. This is why we're here, because we're trying to end the end of all identification with the thinking mind. And then, can you have real compassion for the world? Now, can you actually connect with nature? Now, can you actually love your son and your daughter? Now, can you actually love, understand the real power of love? Now, can you actually understand kindness? Now, can you actually go in the world and create amazing stuff that by default will be for the greater good. By default, it'll be for the greater good because you are creating from wholeness, not from separation. Separation, it means there is inner conflict by default. Now, can you actually have peace that surpasses all understanding while you living, while you're still alive? And from there, can you actually be present, real presence, not the idea of presence that the thinking mind has been feeding you for years. Now, can you be joyful? And you actually can look younger. You feel more vibrant. You feel more alive. We can live with life with all your senses, all your power, all your energy. There is absolutely no other science behind it. It can be explained differently by another person, but in the end, that's what there is. Thank you very much for listening. This is about it when it comes to fear. Our next subject is going to be very interesting, and I think it's going to cover and answer a lot of questions that people have about pain and suffering. This world can be really harsh, really tough. Many people are living a life of misery, and it's really painful. And we need to understand what pain is and suffering, and really describe and really get to the bottom of pain. What is pain? What is suffering? And is it possible to end all pain and suffering for all of us, collectively and individually? Or is it a fate we have to accept, that this life can actually be really tough and painful and sometimes full of regret? Let's look into it. Let's observe and see exactly if it's possible to end pain and suffering in your daily life. Right. So thank you very much for listening to the Mystical Journey podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Please also, there is a link to the Apple podcast. Please also follow our podcast on those channels, including Spotify. Also follow us on all social media channels. We have actually unofficially launched 2 health products that can be found on the website, and we'll take more time to explain exactly the benefits of these products and what they can do in your life. But for now, they're already accessible. Please take a look. You can see them at www.themysticaljourney.ca. And there are 2 products. First one is called Seed. The other one is called Seed Plus. And those are really made by a special alchemist in-house who has a passion for making health products that are not from any usual chemicals. So it's healthy, natural herbs and roots that would basically help you in your journey, in your mystical journey to awakening and beyond. So feel free to purchase. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email, and I shall see you next time. Have a great day.